whacked 10 days later. What happens? Alan Dulles becomes in charge of the investigation of the Kennedy murder. And guess who's on that committee?
Gerald Ford, Arlen Specter,
Megan Lestat.
And him, and Alan Dulles, right? He was on the Warren Commission also. All of those people were.
Yeah, he was the head investigation of it. And Arlen Specter, that piece of crap shithead, excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, he is. I call him the Mossad shithead in the United States Senate. He has been the judiciary cover-up meister for this crime syndicate way back into the 60s. He should be taken to jail. He should be tried and executed after found guilty because of all the things he has done in the way of treason and sedition is the death penalty. And I think rather than hanging him, shooting him, or gas chambering him, I think we ought to start making some guillotines and take him to the guillotine because that's a symbol of tyranny. And I have an attitude about these people. They need to be brought to justice.
I have a
they
question.
Need to be brought to justice.
Did you think that Lyndon Johnson had something to do with this also?
There were some Texas connections to a guy named Cars, what I've been told, former Speaker of the House of the Texas during the 1980s was involved, and a few cronies around there. Some have speculated that Johnson was involved. I've been told that he wasn't directly. Johnson was scared crapless. Matter of fact, a scientist, a U.S. scientist that worked at Area 51 and helped make flying saucers, who was a personal friend of mine, which they tried to whack him. They whacked 11 of his colleagues. They killed him. He's still breathing and living. I've talked to him, on occasion. I still do on occasion. I don't want to get into it. The guy's, kind of laying low and in hiding.
Yeah.
Johnson calls, he worked for Cold Arms. Johnson immediately contacted Cold Arms, a contractor for the U.S. government. Says, I want a special weapon made. He didn't want to carry a MAC-10 around in his pocket. He says, I want a special weapon made, and he says, I want it made in the next 30, 45 days. I want a automatic weapon with 50-round clip, and I want to be able to tuck it right in here to my pocket because I don't trust any of these son of a bitches at the Secret Service. He said they whacked the former president. They allowed him to get whacked, and he says, I don't want to get killed. So anyway, this I call him the professor. He worked it up for him for Cold Arms, and if you notice in videotapes of Johnson, he's always got his hand in his suit coat pocket. That's because he had his finger on the trigger.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? That gives you an idea about Johnson.
Extremely interesting. And this wasn't the weapon that, I forgot, what was his name, Sullivan, who was carrying what they call it, the fireball. He was the one that was supposedly the person at the grassy knoll with the fatal shot. Was that
the guy at the grassy knoll, the umbrella man, was the signal man. Mm-hmm. The videotape, friends have reviewed that tape in intelligence that I'm aware of, and I don't want to get into it.
Mm-hmm.
They've seen that tape. That French tape from the helicopter. The shots came from one of the killers is Woody Harrelson, the actor's father, who killed the judge, was in prison. I think he died here recently, or a couple years ago.
I believe he did, yeah.
He killed, and he confessed to people that I know. Killed Kennedy. He was one of the shooters. Woody Harrelson's dad killed Judge John Woods and was imprisoned for it out of San Antonio, Texas. He had killed about 300 people for the Bush crime syndicate, supposedly for the CIA and for the government. He was a hitman for them, part of the Pegasus group, they called it. Anyway, he confessed to people that I am aware of and know within the intelligence community who knew him that he was one of the ones. Woody Harrelson's dad, I forgot his name, Harrelson, is one of the 3 hobos. Remember the famous hobo picture?
Yeah.
3 of them? Mm-hmm. He's one of them. The other one was Frank Sturgis, known as Franco. Mm-hmm. Frank Sturgis, when the FBI was chasing me down, trying to arrest me and going to kill me and imprison me or whatever they were going to do, and ended up imprisoning me for 10.5 months illegally. By the way, they dismissed the charges and let me go. Then they tried to kill me within days after I got out. Frank Sturgis, knew that he was going to die. He was involved with something that didn't get into me. Somebody else gave me some information because I started coming across the Gunther Rustbachers and a whole bunch of spooks during the period of 1991 to 1992 before the FBI found me. And there were, I'm not going to get the numbers and who it was, but Gunther Rustbacher connected me up with a whole bunch of people. Mm-hmm. And that was the one that Rodney Stitch first met in jail when he was filing over right after he wrote his book, Unfriendly Skies, and was illegally jailed for firing up lawsuits against judges. Mm-hmm. Anyway,
it's really horrible. I mean, we talk. You're talking about this corruption here. These people are literally destroying this country. I would like to talk to you further. I'd like to give people a 5-minute break if possible. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, it is. But I'll throw out if somebody wants the details of the Kennedy murder and the details of John F. Jr. and Hillary Clinton being involved, and George W. Bush, George Herbert Walker Bush, etc., on my website, on the front page, on the right column, scroll down to where it says top stories, other top stories. Read the 2 stories where it says Division 4 reveals JFK Jr. murder or whatever it is, and then there's 2 other stories about Senior, and it shows the pictures. And I supplied a document showing that George Herbert Walker Bush was contacted by FBI Director Hoover the day after the murder. George Bush Sr. denies he was ever in the CIA, going back to 1945. Read those stories.
When we come back from this break, I'd like to discuss the assassination of John Kennedy Jr.
Okay.
Is that okay? Okay, good.
Yeah,
we're going to have a 5-minute break, and I'm going to put a speech down from President Kennedy about secret societies. Give everyone a chance to take a little break, and we'll be right back. Thank you. This is Freedom Fighters for America Radio. The speech that we're about to listen to is about secret societies from President John Kennedy.
Ladies and gentlemen, the very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it. Even today, there is little value in opposing the threat of a closed society by imitating its arbitrary restrictions. Even today, there is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it. And there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. That I do not intend to permit to the extent that it's in my control. And no official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, civilian or military, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of election, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, No rumor is printed,